All right, what is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode Podcast interview. Every single week, I interview top entrepreneurs, top real estate professionals, and straight up top badasses out there dominating their space. And today, guys, we got another rock star guest here on the show. One of my good personal friends and a long-term mentor of mine. You know, has really been mentoring and helping me go out there and create so much success, and has impacted my life in so many different ways over the decade plus that we've known each other. So really stoked and honored to have Ryan Finch on the podcast. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks, Josh. I always love doing these. I love catching up with you and hearing what's going on with you. And I love sharing. I know the audience you have, get so much content and so much value out of everything you do. I know because of the backside, how much you put your, blood, sweat, and tears into giving out content, and how much you carry the weight of getting good information out there to everybody. So, I mean, it's just, it's very valuable what you're doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. It means a lot, dude. And one of the reasons why I think I've gotten, because I get asked a lot, like, how do you find a good mentor? And there's a lot that goes into that, but, to the core, it's, okay, hey, somebody that's been and created like where I want to go and where I want to be, and created what I want to do. And they've, went through the blood, sweat, tears, the goods, the bads. They figured it out. That way, they can, help guide us through, and when we break down your overall career, it's like you've worn all the different hats, dude. It's like, okay, you started off 2005, start off as an agent on a team, crushed it there. Then you transitioned into leaving that team and being an independent individual agent. Then you boomed the next level. You started your own team and grew that into what I think the number 7th team in the U.S., doing close to 900.
I forgot about that. Now that you said that, I even forgot about that. It's funny.
Yeah, because when I met you, we were both at REMAX, and you were number 1, and I was number 30. I'm like, man, I got to catch this number. Ryan Finch is number 1 cat. I was never able to do it, but but then okay, like you crushed that and became top of the top there. Then it was like, okay, that next step, you decided to go start your brokerage, and then you're like, okay, well, there's that next step. Let me go out there and start, franchise this brokerage. And, I don't know the exact numbers and stats, but I think that, you're one of the, if not the fastest growing franchise, at least right now, in this space. You guys just continue to dominate, so you've kind of worn all the hats. You've had success in each of those different layers, plus.
I lose you?
Yeah, lost you for a second. I think we're still good. You got me?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Yep. Screen blacked out for a second for some reason. All right. So I'll just keep it rolling. We'll cut this little clip out. But you're somebody that's went through all those different levels, plus in addition to that, mortgage, title, all the different ancillaries. And so you're such a wealth of knowledge, and I'm going to get into a lot today, but for those that maybe haven't heard your previous podcasts, can you just give us a quick snapshot, quick summary, of what this journey's been for you?
First off, how much will it pay for you to be my publicist? I mean, because when you tell the story better than I do, and the fact you have 7 million things going on and can even remember that, man, it speaks a lot about you. So I appreciate that. For whoever wouldn't know, I went from the plumbing side of things. I was a plumber, and jumped cold turkey right before the crash of things, in 2006, I jumped in. And so obviously that was because I had my daughter, and I was having to make sure she was taken care of. She was about 3 at the time. And so, it just wasn't the quality of life that I wanted. And so, I say that because there's somebody that's going to be deciding, do I jump full time into this, or whatnot. So I like betting on myself, and everyone has somewhat of a way of that they do things. Wherever they're at is based on like who they are, their DNA, and this stuff. And I've constantly pushed myself to a limit to figure out whether I can interrupt a pattern, right? If I didn't, I was going to be a plumber, and all of that was going to stay the same as it was in my family. And trying to break generational curses and things like that are important to me, I guess. And I'm saying that because all of this is really a journey, and everyone is on this journey. As I'm going through the journey of growing, I've had the ups and downs. There's probably people that are being disrupted in this market that are deciding to even go forward. There was a point in time when I was going to quit real estate and go take a job doing franchise sales at a franchise company. I never sold anything, but they were going to pay me a salary, and that was going to be fine for me because because it was just so bad. But I've had all of those kind of things, and I know sometimes we end up highlighting kind of the wins, right, instead of the losses. But what's funny is what stands out to me is the losses so much that I remember them, because they stand out because I don't want to repeat them. And at the same time, I got to put them in some compartment in my mind that says that was then, and I'm not going from, from a failure. I'm going from a place of growth and understanding. And now I like to turn that around and fast track everybody with, with that kind of knowledge.
Yeah, Napoleon Hill, talks or has a statement that the amount of success that you achieve is going to be in direct correlation to the amount of temporary defeats that you experience. And so the word failure, he replaces that with temporary defeats, but I think, so many people seem to be afraid of failure, and it's why they don't go out there and try it, but it's like, those are the biggest growth opportunities, the biggest growth moments. And, what do you think allows you to keep pushing through those temporary defeats, those failures, that you've experienced in the past, because it's a different phase, man. They're, different challenges.
A lot of it is a reflection on me. So which means when I see that failure, whatever, I realize what I didn't plan ahead and think ahead. So I almost get better at planning ahead. And I start seeing the future. That comes with a whole other set of problems that can cause failure, which is then you're communicating to other people to help them navigate the future when they can't see it, right? And so I can imagine who I was mentoring with and how they were trying to protect me, to tell me the future, but I didn't listen. And so not listening caused me to go into those problems. But ultimately, all of those were level up that I feel like a different person. My brain operates differently. I see the world differently. I do business differently. And all of that stuff now becomes this harness value. So I don't even look at any of the failures as really a bad thing. I look at it as a learning opportunity. And it's so cliche, but once you harness it that way, then all of a sudden you realize you're leveled up, you're better. I'm a way better leader. I couldn't even do public speaking when we first met. I couldn't stand in front of people. Now we stood in front of hundreds of people, and it's no problem to do that. But because I pushed myself through that comfort zone, and then really just try to develop. And I like developing. I can screw up on money and own it. But if you deny that failure, you're destined to almost repeat it. And because again, it's a pattern. People are in patterns, and you've got to interrupt that pattern to go into the next level of whatever it is, whatever you're capable of.
Yeah. And, for anybody that's watching and listening, I believe that this is your fourth, maybe even your fifth, at least your fourth time here on the podcast. So, if you want to go check out Ryan's earlier sessions where we've really broken down, early on in his career, step by step, and what he did during those different phases. And I also recommend that you guys go check out his book, Explode. I don't know if you have a copy there. So those of you that are watching on YouTube, I know most of you are listening that you can't see that, but his book Explode is really, in my opinion, and maybe I'm a little bit biased here because again, Ryan's been the most important, impactful real estate business mentor that I've had throughout my whole entire career. So I might be a little bit biased to this, but to me, it's hands down the best real estate book that's ever been generated and created. And it's his really walking you through his journey, his path of building a team and how to go out there and create and sell 500 homes every single year consistently, even though he sold many more beyond than just 500 on an annual basis. That's step by step of just, a lot of tactics and strategy. And I highly recommend that you guys go check that out as well. But on today, man, I want to kind of take a different transition with this podcast because, we covered a lot of that stuff in previous podcasts, but this is the first time that we've had you on, since you really started scaling this franchise, the franchise portion. And now I know you have 100 plus franchisees out there, all throughout the country, and which I want to get into all of that. But my first question for you, dude, in regards to this is, in your mind, dude, like you're somebody that always sees opportunities that usually others don't, and how to go out there and scale it. You're always forward thinking. You're always looking for, hey, what's that next level? Going for those next opportunities. Kind of walk us through what that. I guess how your mind works to go out there and spot those different growth opportunities that maybe others are missing.
Yeah. And by the way, I emailed you a link for the book. So if anybody wants, they can go to the link and we'll send them a book for free. So
okay, cool.
If anybody wants it, they don't need to pay for it. We'll send it. I just wanted to tell you that.
Anybody that's watching, listening, just scroll below. I'll have it right right below here. Wherever you're watching, listening, it'll be right there. You can click on it.
There's also it's a free gift thing. So then they can take the listing presentation, buyer presentation if they want that as well. So we just set that up so that way when we do a podcast, we can give something away, in case somebody wants it. As far as looking for opportunities going forward, it's really just a matter of looking at Wayne Gretzky said it. He said, don't skate to where the puck is at, skate to where it's going, and that I'm not even a big hockey guy, but that concept is always stuck with me, and that I've watched that everything is always moving. And so that was even my point with you, coaching and helping people, is that you're always going out in front, figuring out what the next thing is, and then bringing that information back. And so, for me, I think I'm somewhat unsettled with wherever I'm at. So I'm always looking for that next part of this. And I realized as I went and looked for the next thing, it opened the door of value to somebody else. So it was like a race to the bottom on one side, and then this hustle side on the other side of like, well, I still got to pay the bills. I can't just keep giving away and going lower and lower and lower to the place where I'm just doing this for fun. I want to be able to build a business. I want to do something cool, and I want to learn, and I like learning. I push for learning, but the more I learn, it's almost like the clearer the picture gets, the more you start to understand the things that are going out there. But I think the key differentiator is not even going after looking for that vision and creating that vision, but as much as knowing the number one commodity is information and how much you implement. If you knew a house down the street that was worth $400,000 was going to go on the market for $200,000 before it went on the market, that would be valuable information, wouldn't it? And so what you're trying to do is gather that information. Now, again, you could know that and do nothing with it, and that's on you. So how many people don't go look for that information? They're too busy in the cycle of what they're doing that they're not looking for new stuff. So something in me is insatiable. I'm reading books at night, listening to podcasts on my way here or there. I'm meeting with different people. I take down new information. I'm always absorbing. And so while I go in usually in a mindset of contribution, I usually pick something up. And what happens is my brain is like an algorithm that information is stored away and it doesn't matter today. But then you go down to here and I go, wait a minute, I knew that. And this connector type mentality of business where when you're going in to go give to people, it's no problem because you don't mind. You don't have any subconscious problem with that. When you're going in to give, you're meeting with somebody, hey, can you do lunch? People are like, I'm too busy to go do lunch with so-and-so. And I'm like, no, I'm not too busy because everyone has some kind of value. I'll make a phone call, I'll do a meeting, and I'll share whatever it is. And they usually have something really cool and unique that's part of this pie. So people will miss that because they don't either like people or they're all about themselves. And instead, when they go in and they do that side of contribution, they take on these pieces, they're going to have that information. And now they'll have a decision of what they're going to do with it. And then that, again, will be a dictator. It's like kind of like, I don't know, there's a million examples I'm sure you can think of, but ultimately where people have information and didn't do anything with it. And how many times are you doing that in life that you had an opportunity in front of you and you just didn't do it? Someone will say they don't call me because they're intimidated or whatever it is. They don't text me, they don't email me, whatever it is. They're not doing well in something and they don't reach out for help when they could have, and it could have changed their trajectory of their business. I'm the opposite way. So and where I'm going on Monday, to go do that. I reached out and I just said, hey, I'd be interested in meeting with you. And so I'm going to go meet with them. But that didn't happen unless I asked to do that. And in the same token, I can see there's really no value in it for that person to meet with me either, so I like that. I go for that. And I know all of those opportunities are going to lead to something more. And then I know I'm not going to waste time. I'm going to get the information and I'm going to do something with it.
Yeah. Now, do you have, because it can be hard when you're, all of us, because at each different level, I mean, you're running hard, you're running fast, it can be hard to slow down enough to be able to think and really process this stuff. Like as an example, you talk about this in your book, but it's like, okay, you were able to reflect and, okay, hey, I need more leads, more opportunities. Well, I see all these We Buy Ugly house companies, going out there and spending all this money, and they're buying a contingent of those properties. But what about all the others that, don't sell? Maybe I can approach them and buy their leads that, aren't of use to them. Okay, well, I'm going to do this brilliant strategy, paid off massively for you. But you have to slow down enough to be able to think and, put pen to paper and come up with these strategies. So you do have like a part of your routine, where you, whatever that may be. Like Jerry Seinfeld, I think at one point, mentioned that at 2 hours every day was blocked off just for writing, for inspiration, like to just force him to be in that, scenario.
Yeah, so I mean, I do a couple of different things that are strategic for me each day. And so, you have to do something for yourself every day. Too many people get wore out from not taking time for themselves. You should make sure your spouse is doing that. You should make sure you're doing it, because too many days without, taking something for yourself, you feel like you're pouring out too much and not receiving. And so for me, and we've done this, from the stage side of things, which is, if you don't take time each day to spend and think, a day without thinking is just being on a hamster wheel, because you're not trying to figure out what needs to be disrupted or changed or what's going to go on that in the market or industry. So I usually spend time almost every day walking with my business partner. So we actually walk first thing in the morning. It's one of the things we do. Then after that, before my son goes to school, I sit in a chair, I have a cup of coffee, and I think. I look at my business plan for the day of who I have to meet with. And I honestly think of, what is it the problem they're going to have? What do I need to work on? And it's not every day. Some days it gets convoluted, but for the majority of the time, I try and get that time. I try and think through what's going to go on there. What's working in my business? What it looks like in my life? What do I like? What do I not like? Who do I need to meet? What's the next set of things? And so planning all of that is key, and then making the changes. I mean, I've done all different things, and I'm not afraid to change it either. I went to one place where no business meetings on Thursdays. And then I went to another one, because that allowed me to kind of catch up and implement, because now I'm spending time thinking but not implementing, because I was having too much going on. Then I moved to no appointments after Friday after 12. I don't do any appointments there. And then I went to another one where I don't schedule any meetings before 9 or after 3 each day, because that leaves me a chance to deal with something first thing in the morning or last thing in the evening before I go home. That way I'm not dealing with it at 5 or 6 o'clock at night, because I didn't have any time, because I didn't leave enough room. So these are just things that I've done as I've thought through sitting there and taking time to think of what needs to change.
Yeah. And then when you're doing that, like do you find anything that's been more effective for you when it comes, and this might even sound like a silly question, but it's like, to be able to free open those thoughts, as far as that thinking time, like, okay, hey man, I do it, same room, same area. Like I don't allow a phone in the room for at least, 30 minutes a day. Even if nothing gets put on the whiteboard, at least it forces me to think. Yeah. Cause like I think Jack Welch had a 90-minute space of time where nobody in the organization, it might even been 2 hours, but nobody could bug him. And he would just stare and look out the window and just force himself, even if no new inspiration came in that time, but that was like his kind of thinking routine.
It's similar to that. Now, I may have my phone because I may want to write it down or something, so I'm not as regimented. I may just be sitting there to listen to a podcast, because sometimes I'll do something to listen or read a book to get the brain going. And so it's the biggest problem I've almost found is that just imagine being on a hamster wheel and nothing's there to interrupt it. You can't just create a new thought. Something has to come in. The information has to come from somewhere. You can't just go, I'm going to think of how to do quantum physics and have never looked at that, how to do it. So you have to get it somewhere. So whether it's a coach, a podcast, something like that is huge. Then thinking on it, because one of the big things I had with one of my coaches is he would ask me a question. It's the weirdest thing. He sent me a text. He sent me one text one time. He said, hey, do you have concierge for KV Core? Now, you can look at that kind of two different ways. He asked me the question, and I'm like, oh, yeah, we have this, thinking what I thought he meant was like a person we can talk to, right? Because that word concierge kind of works as a multi-level meaning in our English language. So he asked that question, and I write back this long paragraph of, yeah, we do blah, 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 right? And so I'm doing this podcast, I'm doing this text back. And about 2 days later, it's 2 completely days later, I'm sitting in that chair and I went, oh, he means there's something else. I need to go look into that. He wasn't asking because he really cared whether my business did it or not. Like, that's what happens is you don't think of what the question means. He doesn't care whether I decide to listen to that, think on it or whatever, but he's trained me to now work in my subconscious when a question is asked. It's not just the answer, and so we have one of the questions we ask, what's 3 things that'll stop you from fulfilling your goal? And we ask that question because once you can figure out the 3 things, you can go in and stop it. I don't usually go in and explain that, but I ask that question. If someone would go time or money or, commitment, whatever those 3 things are they come up with, because it's unique to each individual. Now they figure out how to create more time. They figure out how to create more money, and they figure out how to get more consistent on it. And boom, their level of success just went up because they spent the time thinking on the answer to that question. Now you can deal with somebody else that doesn't think. They're just on a hamster wheel. They're doing 7 million deals a year, right? They're just uber successful. And you ask them the question, what's 3 things that'll stop you from the next thing? And they just simply don't, they answer your question. Oh yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Nothing. Their answer is nothing. They say nothing's going to stop me. What do you think happens to that person?
Not
Everything they didn't think of stops them, and they don't reach their next level of success, right? And so this stuff is like mind-blowing when you start realizing that, like, you can create anything. You create it in your mind, and then you can create it in real life. And there's all these opportunities, and there's people that want to help you. Instead, people think that nobody wants to help me, or I'm on my own, I'm on an island. All of this stuff is in their limiting beliefs in their psychology. And all of that stuff, once you unlock it, it's like setting people like wolves. I mean, they're after it. And that's what all the top level coaches you see out there do. They open up and tap into that side of the brain that everyone has these abilities to do and learn. When they stop the pattern of, oh no, I got it. Their pride's in the way. They won't listen to new advice, or they don't have a person they can go to ask for that advice.
Yep. So when it comes to time, right? Okay, so all these different phases, through these different stages. Okay, agent on a team, solo individual agent, team leader, brokerage owner, now, running a nationwide franchise. At each different stage, like, you've had to identify the best allocation of your personal time and your personal focus. How do you figure out at each different stage what the best and use is of your time to take you to that next level?
So there's 3 factors. It's funny because you're asking this, and I was trying to put this together in wording that could be really valuable. And I know my rule on 50X. I'm actually working on the book to put out for 50X, but if I can't get a multiplier on it, I don't care about the 10X. I don't want to do 10 times the effort to get the result of 1 times the effort, right? Like, that's the concept of like Grant Cardone's 10X, right? Like, so if you want $1 million, or if you want $100,000, work like you want $1 million, right? And so, like, that's all effort. And what I like to do is it's on a lever factor. And so, they would walk around the office and they'd make this joke. You remember DJ Khaled's song, All I Do Is Win? Like, I made it a joke where I almost got everybody to believe that was like my theme song, and we do it at parties and things like that. And everybody would just go and roar. And they're like, it just seems like you always win, And I'm like, I remember we just talked about all these failures, but they think all I do is win. Right. And so, and I try and beat that into my subconscious so that I believe and have that confidence to win. But really what I learned, and this is what I was saying, I was spending time thinking, and I was preparing, and I said, I have a rule, and it's called win-win. We've talked about that before, haven't we? Win-win.
Yep.
So everyone thinks that's you win and I win. And what I say is, I only do it if I win twice. If I buy a stock, it needs to go up and I get a dividend. I'm going to buy a house so that I get the rental and the depreciation of it. Like, if I'm going to hire an agent, I'm going to get 20 sales from there. I'm going to sell a franchise, and then they're going to grow by agent count. I'm going to open an office, and then they're going to have a mortgage side of the business. And so now it doesn't mean you always win twice, right? So I could buy the stock and it goes down. Well, now I'm stuck if I had to sell it. But if I'm still getting a dividend, I'm covered. And so what happens is one of those ways wins. So now I can buy time to wait for the other side of it. I can buy it and get the rental, and I go, man, the guy didn't pay rent. I broke even on rent this year for my mortgage, but I got the depreciation on my taxes, right? Like, so all of these things are set up where what happens, and I'm answering all this in a win-win because it's how time is allocated. So then what I did is I calculated, what am I worth an hour? So based on my revenue last year, divided by 40 hours a week, if I worked that amount, what amount do I make? And then what do I work on that doesn't win at that rate? And so, I got a bicycle, I'm making this up, but I got a bicycle in the garage, and it's sitting there, and my son's too old for it, and need to sell it. I can put on offer up and sell it for $100 and then show it to 10 people and get $100. Well, my rate is higher than that. So that wasn't worth my time. So now I'm in a conundrum, and people get into that. They're out there cutting the grass or whatever it is, and they can't figure out how to use their time for a win-win. So now that they're literally getting ahead. And so, we're looking at, I was doing a call with somebody earlier today, And they said, they're going into our space and they want to buy companies. And so, they were looking at things and they were talking about it. I said, well, I'm probably not a good candidate for you, because we're up. And I showed them the numbers. I'm like, we're up 30% from last month. So I was like, we're growing. They said, how is it possible? These other offices are all down and yada, yada, yada. And I said, because we win twice and we teach everyone to win twice. So they're looking for growth and things that are going to give them a multiplier so that they win. And everybody doesn't do it, but when they do it, they're pushing up the value of their time that actually frees up more time. And now they can grow again, and you just kind of keep leveling up over and over again. So time is allocated that way based on what your rate of return is to winning twice at a rate that one of those two wins is going to be worth it, and at the 50x rule. So I know that was a lot really said quickly, and I don't know if somebody needs to rewind it, they can rewind it, but there's a lot to that to unpack and implement that really is life-changing when you do it. And you go, wait a minute, but thinking doesn't make me any money. That's horrible use of time. Remember, I said I'll sit there for 30 minutes or so and think, and I go, and I'll think of what am I doing that's costing me or making me less than what it is, or who can I help that when they multiply in their growth, it actually is good use of multiplying on my time. And so, but you've got to stop to identify those, or you're just doing the same thing over, hoping for a different result. And even if you're winning, that's great, but there could be more of an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, because, and I know that it's not quite this simple, but if we were just to break it down in a simplistic, man, it's like at the end of the day, okay, we all have the same amount of hours in a day. So, that individual agent that's maybe out there hustling, selling, 40 homes a year, they have the same amount of hours in a day that you do. The difference is you've identified what those levers are.
They're stuck. They're stuck, and I'm going to tell you why they're stuck. They're stuck because they're successful, and the biggest deficit to future success is current success. All right. And they now are probably going to live in a level of whatever that revenue is. And so, like, if they're making $200,000 a year and they're in that, they're only setting up for a failure, right? They're setting up for, if it fails, they'll disrupt their own pattern. But other than that, they're going to stay on this other thing. But see, I set up a rule that I set that I put up for myself, and really ultimately was, how long can I go without a paycheck? Now this is huge. I don't even know that this is going to even make sense to everybody, but how long can I go without a paycheck? If I open a company and it takes 6 months for it to make money, but then after that, it makes more money than I would have made working by the hour, was that not a good use of time? Was that not a good play? But see, the thing is if I need the check from that, I can't afford to do that. But I look at everything that way. So I'm going to apply money to something. Not only I'm going to either apply time or money. If I can go without a paycheck from it because this business is paying for me, I now levered up, and now I can do this business where I don't need a paycheck. I can spend time working in it and get a multiplier of whatever the return is. And that's repeatable. And so you can do that over and over and over. But if you can't go without a paycheck, when I had to jump out of plumbing to go into real estate, I had equity in a house and I tapped into it and I used it because I knew I could go 30 to 45 days without a paycheck, right? And so then you can do it. If you're spending all the money and you can't afford to go without a paycheck, you'll never know what you would have done in the time to build more money to be able to be made. And so what happens, we sit back and we watch all these people do it and they hit these high levels, but because they invested a certain amount of risk of time, but they had to go work to get money set aside, to save, to be disciplined, to free up time that they could use at a higher rate of return. And the problem is that doesn't always work. There's more than enough businesses I've started where, again, I didn't get paid and I didn't get my money back. And that's okay, because that was worth the risk more so than staying on the same pattern. I got an idea. I think I want to do this. I find the person that wants to work it. How do they get compensated? I apply the money. And how long will it take to get my money back? That's all Shark Tank's doing, right? They're just looking for different opportunities to put money in, and how quick do they get their money back? Because they don't need that money right now. So as much as you don't need time or you don't need money is what opens up the next level of opportunities.
Yeah. So then, speaking of next level, dude, I mean, what led you to the decision, to the new level that you're at now, if you will, from instead of continuing to grow first class and just expanding it, you as the owner, just on that kind of a corporate level, like what made you make the decision to go out there and franchise your model?
it was really two factors. One is I kind of just wanted to go really big, really fast. And I knew if I did my own personal offices, I was going to have to put up that money and try and figure out how to be that person in the next market. And that's hard to do in a corporate setting and model. I didn't in my brain have a way to do that. So it didn't make sense that I felt like I could do it. I know there's models out there that do it, and they've done great. That was part one. Part two was I really looked at it like the level of person I could bring in was higher level thinking and operating, because everything comes down to a paycheck. Like, so if I was going to say, hey, you want to come over here, Josh, and I'll pay you $30,000 to come work as an employee into my company, would you do that?
No.
But if you didn't need a paycheck and we were going to go into $1 million a year business, and I said, hey, will you spend some time, 3 hours a week or whatever on this? You'd say, yeah, right. And so it worked the same way in my mind. Who I'd hire as an employee to run an office was going to take a little longer. They'd have to do a good job, but they wouldn't be as strong as the person who says, I appreciate you have that opportunity, but I'd rather own it. I want to own my own office. I want to run it. Give me the tools. So by us not keeping 20, 30, or 80% of the profit, we now only keep that small royalty. They get all the profit, and they're only paying if the model wins for them, right? And so on the other side of it, I was fronting the money, but I was able to keep the other amount of profit. It was slower. It was going to be slower because it was going to take more money, and it was going to be slower because it was going to challenge the ability for that person. Eventually, they were going to leave me. Does that make, because they were going to go, if they were really good, they would go and open their own business anyway. So I thought about that a long time ago. And so that's really what almost essentially led us to the franchise model.
Yeah.
They own their own companies. I can't see somebody working at a company, building somebody else's company, that it just doesn't seem like it's going to have the same long-term value of building something that's sellable. I mean, even if I paid them that, they're only getting a paycheck. Remember, you got to win twice. I don't mind building a real estate office. I won't come run and work your real estate office because I'm only going to get a paycheck, right? But if I come build my office and I build it, now I get the money that comes in, right? The profit of whatever I build in my office, and the sale value of whatever it is. So I win twice. See, nobody realizes that all the good decisions come from that win twice philosophy. They just haven't defined it that way, and they keep setting up win once and hope it doesn't fail.
Yeah. Yep. So then, up until you started this new journey, it was like, okay, I mean, you were creating massive success as an agent, creating massive success as a team leader, creating massive success as your own brokerage owner, but now you're sitting there being involved with and helping, supporting, over 100 brokerage owners with their own separate businesses, and I've had, multiple first class franchise owners on the podcast, and last one I had on, I'm like, man, like, is there something in the water over there? Like, you guys are all just seem to be crushing it. You seem to be killing it. It's like every one of your franchisees that I meet, that I talk with, they're just going out there and doing big things. And there may be some that aren't as well. I don't know. I've, had the one, several on that, are absolutely murdering it, but with that being said, I mean, now that you've had the ability to observe and be involved in a different way, a different capacity, what is it that you have found that really helps create a successful, for somebody that wants to go out there and create a brokerage, start a brokerage, have a brokerage, like what's that difference? What's that differentiator from those that are really crushing it?
This is going to be self-serving to answer this question. But ultimately, you don't have to ask me. You can ask any of them, and they will tell you this. They literally say it over and over again because it's become almost a ongoing theme. And it's all the people that you have on your podcast, all the people that succeed, they coach with me. And they call me at least once a month, if not twice a month or 4 times a month, which is part of the program. I want them to, because again, then I can insert new things in. They go through business cycles where it's like, oh man, my top agent left, or hey, I didn't make a profit this month. All of that messes with you as a business owner because you're continually at war. And for me to be able to say, hey, we did this and here's how we'll go and work through that, whatever their situation is what gets them back up and gets them on top again. And then they get momentum. And then they probably need me less. And the highest level people end up doing that. and it's almost like a beating over and over and over again, a new train, a new way of thinking, where they're like, hey, I want to go do this. Or they're great creators, they're entrepreneurs, so they get deviated into another thing instead of staying on the track of what works, right? I mean, that's continual, and it's a pandemic in business owners. And so that continually happens. I see it all the time. And so that's usually the thing. Now, what'll happen though is people that aren't successful, maybe they feel like they're not doing a good enough job or whatever. And so they don't want to get on a call and say, okay, I didn't do what I was supposed to do from last week's call or whatever. And so they kind of start shying away. Those people that just said, all right, man, I didn't do it. Help me. No problem. We're going to help you and we can go work through that. The people that don't, they kind of get down on themselves, and then they don't end up getting the result because they're staying in a negative mental mindset. So my electric positivity and ability to see the outcome going, the business isn't done. I don't care where it is. I've already been through all these ups and downs. If you go do this, you will be able to go through. And they almost always go, man, I'm so glad I called, because they weren't feeling that way when they did. And now they're just re-energized. And, you know, the second thing that goes in with it is, and some of this, I'm telling you, this is like fresh, how I think now and understand. It's like, I'm a salesperson, all right? Now, I'm not one of those boiler room type, go lie to somebody and tell them, you know me. You know how I operate. So I don't mind. I'm gonna tell you the truth. Here's the results. Here's what you have to do. This at the end of the day, it's work. You're gonna have to go do the work. But really what it comes down to is, I have learned everything we did that you talked about in that bandwidth of a process is, I had to learn sales to sell real estate. Then I had to learn to sell it when I wasn't on a team because I could generate my own business. Then I had to sell people on the vision of joining the team. Then I had to sell people on running offices. Then I had to sell people on buying franchises or opening. And I'm using the word sales, but sales isn't a bad word. These people had different needs at different times of what they needed. Someone needed to sell a house. That's not a bad thing. I just told them why they should use me. Somebody wanted to join a team. Well, this is why our team would be the best fit. Someone wanted to buy a franchise or open an office. There was a reason. And what I've done is I've learned how to articulate that information really, really well and in a style. And so what happens is, that's not taught out there a lot, right? There's these used car salesman type sales things, which is like getting over on somebody, and they feel yucky when they walk away from that sale, right? But you're trying to build somebody that feels good about walking away with the sale. So we do things, and part of it's our attracting agents. We don't even like to use recruiting. We use attracting because recruiting just doesn't sound real good. So we want to attract. Well, how do we attract? We do events. We pay a high commission structure. Okay, so how do you convey that to somebody? Josh, I see that you sold 6 houses last year. If you could find a way that you could double your production next year by moving over here, would you consider moving over here? That's just a question, but that's sales, right? And so now, if I don't feel like I can provide whatever it is to do that, I shouldn't ask that question, because that would be a lie, right? And so, but if I said, but Timmy, Tom, John, and Sue all moved over here and they doubled in production by following this process. Now, Josh, if you move over here and you don't follow this process, you're not going to see those results. So if you're not going to, please don't come over here. But if you'd like to double your production, this is what we offer and this is what we do, right? And so that's sales, presenting the opportunity, giving that stuff. So all of that to say is, I don't even recruit agents. I don't attract agents. I don't do that. But all of this stuff I know of how to attract an agent and how psychologically they think and operate and what they're looking for. I know how to present that package. And you can't just get that like that. It's not downloading a thumb drive and you're just going to know how. They're like, wait, I need to record that. Wait, I need to write this down. Again, they've got to write it down. They've got to go run the play. If we tell them exactly what they should ask and they don't go ask it, there's nothing we can do. If they don't get on the call and learn that sales or presentation of value and work on it, how are they going to have any success? See, but that's all the way down. Doesn't matter whether they're a listing agent, a buyer's agent, calling leads on the phone. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And it doesn't matter if you know the script back and forth.
Yep. Awesome stuff, dude. So then, I heard a stat the other day, and I haven't had a chance to fact check it, but it was a legit person that delivered the stat. That was 80% of businesses fail. So I mean, that's the overall, according to SBA, 80% of overall businesses fail, but 90% of franchises succeed.
You got that from me.
No, I did.
I was listening to The Wolf of Wall Street, Dan Clapp said it on the Wolf of Wall Street podcast.
Yeah. The what's it? Franchise playbook, guys.
Yeah.
Yep. So I was just listening to that the other day, and but anyway, with that, I mean, now that you're in this world, like, why do you think that is? Why is the success rate so high for franchise, those that jump into a franchise versus those that try to do this on their own?
The funny thing for me is I got into this before we did franchise. I hated the idea of a franchise. Like I just felt like it was restrictive and it hold you back, and all this other stuff that was just bad. Like I don't know why. I was like, I'm paying them for what? And there's no value in it. I'm just being honest. That's how I felt before I did this. And now I'm doing it. You'd be like, well, that just doesn't make sense. How do you feel that way? And now you're doing this. And what happened is I realized where people don't have strengths. And there's so many things in a business that it takes: marketing, the mental side, the finance side, the sales side. There's so many pieces to a business that the average person who even is good at one of those lanes can't figure out how to itemize all of those lanes, right? And by itemizing, you can make a system and a checklist and a process. And number one thing that every top salesperson has is a process. So any business has to sell a product. It needs to be for a profit, right? And so all of these things that go on. And so what happens is those guardrails, because remember when I came in, I said, I don't like that restrictive. Now we've almost gone to a place where we think this is the lane and this is where everything should go. Josh, you don't have to stay in this lane because we don't want to handcuff you because that's not our culture. But at the same time, we know what will happen if you go outside of this lane, but it's okay because you can always come back in this lane, right? You want accounting, you don't want accounting, which we have as a ancillary service. You want closing coordination, you don't want closing coordination. Well, here's why we think you should, but everyone usually knows better, right? And so they know better. Who are we to tell somebody what it is that's the right play? But anyway, franchises have that strictness. And I hated them because I felt like they were just too brash, too overbearing in this. But what I found is they're actually guardrails to protect. They're a proven model and a system that's been replicated and done. Doesn't mean it can't be deviated, but I mean, you can make a sub different than Subway. I mean, you can, and you can end up with Jimmy John's and end up with two great models of it. But ultimately what they have is repeatable. It's in a process, in the system and all of that stuff. And usually the net economics of it make more sense than whatever the other side of it is. Meaning the franchises, this is what was really mind blowing for me. A McDonald's franchise. What is their product? What does McDonald's sell you?
Like, what are they selling? Me as the consumer or me as the franchisee?
You either one. We'll start with, you're going to answer both of them technically. So if you're a consumer, what are you buying there?
Food.
Okay, you're buying food, you buy a cheeseburger, we'll say. All right. So that means the franchise owner is selling you, the consumer, a cheeseburger. Now, is it cheaper for them to get the cheeseburger from McDonald's that you are buying as a consumer who in that demographic wants a savings, a cost savings, right? And so, or is it cheaper for them to have a cow, feed the cow, water him, slaughter him, make hamburgers and do all that to sell you the patty that's on that cheeseburger? Which would cost them more?
The cow route.
Yeah. So by going the franchise model, you can get, let's call it 1 cent a patty by buying a bulk amount because they're selling patties to everyone else. They're not even in the same business anymore. Their job is to get that cost down so you can sell it to the consumer at a profit margin versus if you try to do it on your own. So that's the answer to why a franchise would succeed. Because if I had to go have the cow and go get meat as one individual, the cost of meat, even if I didn't run it as slaughtering my own cow, would cost me an arm and a leg to go to Food Lion and buy it after they bought it and so on. You get what I'm saying? So you're buying everything retail instead of wholesale. So it's hard to make it. You're adding a new employee and a new office and all of this stuff adds up. It makes it harder to succeed. And franchises are giving you a product at a lower cost. That's it. That's the bottom line of all of it that's set up. And they're telling you how to present that package when it goes out. So you go to Subway, that chicken was sold to them from Subway. You think it's about the Subway sandwich that's up there, in which they do want to drive sales to Subway, but ultimately buying all of that stuff you get there is sold at a discount that it would cost you more to go buy the chicken and grill it and so on. I know you probably know all that, but I just think that's my opinion of the answer to the question.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you have, the proven system and process to plug into. So then it's just execution. It's like, dude, if you just follow the roadmap's proven, you just follow the roadmap, you're going to go out there and crush it.
That's right. That's
you know
right.
and then from those that I've been talking with because I've become a lot of good close friends with a lot of franchise owners at First Class, and I'm getting feedback from them. A lot of them also tell me, in addition to everything that you just said, but is also, there's so much power in the ability to be able to network and mastermind with all these other franchise owners. Because if you have, I mean, in business alone, not just real estate, but business alone, it can be like an island by yourself. It can be a very lonely business, especially as the owner operator. But then when you have 100 plus other franchisees from all over that are out there also working the processes, working the systems, but then adding their tweaks to it. It's like, okay, well, now I'm learning 100 times faster than I could on my own, because I get to tap into these other 100 minds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a value. It's a momentum for us, because then you get in and you get up and running a little bit faster if you're following. At the same time, I'll tell you, it's a negative in some cases because there's so much information. But the problem is that people that are coming into the equation, they're failing outside of it potentially. Using that as the example of percentage wise that people would fail, is because they don't realize everything they don't know. But then when they get in, they're inundated with everything. So now you're trying to do 100 things at once. And so that's the negative side, is because there's a million ways to do this, that, and the other. And that's why, again, we go back to the coaching, and we keep it simple. Simple scales, fancy fails. Keep it simple. This is what you need to work on now. Yeah, but so-and-so is doing it. They have 100 agents. They're in a completely different ballgame. You're not hiring a recruiter when you have 2 agents on a 100% model right now doing 1 deal a month. That's not good use of your money. You'll drown out. It could be faster, but it's just, you're going to have to wait longer to get a paycheck. And by doing that, your chance of success will diminish. You can do what you want, but that's just what we think, right? And so all of that is how we, taking a real business growth plan to doing that. Somebody else is at 100 agents and they're going, well, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, but these agents aren't really bothering me. They're not really calling me. What should I do next? And we always answer that question, what's next, right? And so, we have another saying, and I don't even know where I stole this from. I stole it, and I wrote it down, and I thought it was valuable, so I wanted to share it with somebody today in case they did. But MOE, marketing over everything. And so, what you'll find in all of the things that are going on in our group are all the different marketing ideas, and that you can go implement. Now, again, information is very valuable. You can have that information and not do anything with it. But if you have all the different graphics and different things that work and catch people's attention, and if your marketing is, hey, we sold 3 houses last month, or hey, we sold 3,000 houses last month, there's a difference in that marketing style. But anyway, marketing is everything. Everything you do is marketing. Everything in your office is marketing. All of the things are giving the outside consumer a picture of what's going on inside of your company. And that marketing is over everything. It's they say, what is it? Marketing is senior to sales. I mean, if you're trying to do sales and you're not working on marketing, you're going to fall behind. So they have all these different marketing ideas of what worked to fast track, because they're always trying different things, and they'll find one that works better than the other.
Yeah. Now, you throughout your career, man, one thing that you've always been, well, a lot of things that you've been really good at, but speaking of this specific thing here that you've always been good at, is when it comes to your unique selling proposition, or your unique value proposition, as other people call it. I think you call it your plus ones. And maybe that's okay if I'm an agent and I'm trying to, go out there and recruit buyers or sellers. Okay, well, what differentiates me from all the other agents in my market? And then when you're a team leader, okay, what differentiates us as a team versus the other teams? What differentiates me as a brokerage? What now differentiates you as a franchise? Because again, man, that differentiator is so crucial for all of us, regardless of what level that we are at. How do you identify what those unique differentiators are, for you? I mean, and you've done this at all these different levels. I know they're going to be vastly different, now in the franchising world, than they were when you were a team leader, but how do you go out there and figure those out and identify those?
again, a lot of it comes from that thinking time. Some of it comes from feedback. So sometimes you'll hear feedback from people of something that they need or whatever it is, and you're just too busy to really kind of pay attention to it. And they feel like it's going on deaf ears, and that impacts culture and things like that. But ultimately, people will tell you what they want. They'll tell you what they need. They'll tell you where they're struggling. And if you listen to that, trying to figure out the plus one, it becomes a little easier because they're going to tell you what it is. And it's like, wait, this should be some miraculous thing. Now, how you do and how you run that play can be different for everybody. And so they may say, hey, we want to do a top producer event every month. Or they may say, I feel like I haven't seen Jan in months. That's telling you something, right? You see what I'm saying? Like everything they're saying and they're telling you something. For us, it was like, they're kind of hearing the same stuff for us. So one of the things we just did is I went and got John Cheplack to do a coaching once a month for them. So that way it wasn't my voice. He's a great recruiter. He's good at recruiting that. He's a good leader, and they respect what he's going to say. And some of it will reinforce. It's the same as we had before. You came into the speaking event here. You said a lot of the same things. We would talk about the same things, but when they hear it in a different voice, it becomes a value. And so that value, that plus one is I didn't charge them for that. I just simply did it because I knew it was valuable to them. And because I like to go in and do that over and over, because that establishes culture. How do you keep finding what they need? Now, what happens is, and this is the biggest problem in businesses, the plus one is huge and it has this huge value that it'll add. The thing is it's going to cost you. And my goal is to make profit. I want to make the most amount of profit. And so they're trying to make profit. So they don't want to spend money on this plus one because they want a relationship that says, Josh, this is what we agreed on. You said this and I said this, and this is what we're going to do. And some of them are even the other way around. They try and get a little slidey of the hand with, well, they want to get over on you on this rule or that rule, right? And so that culture is toxic. But when it gets to the place where you're going, Josh, you can't take enough from me. I'll give you whatever you need. I'm going to support you in whatever it is. If that's what you need, I'm going to do that. Well, wait, how much is that going to cost me? Josh, I'm not trying to do something to make more money. If it's valuable to you, then it's probably valuable to them. And we should really look into this. That's huge in culture, in business, and driving people. Now, I'll tell you, you can have that great heart, but if your business is losing money right now, it's hard to do that. I mean, I had agents come to me at one point in time and said, I need you to pay for my rain dues so that I can pay the MLS so I can stay in business. And now when everything was going good, it was fine. You're going to do it. It's going to eat into your profit. When you don't have it, you're going to find out who's really loyal to you. At that point, like, Josh, I don't have the money for you right now. Yeah, Ray, you own this office. You're that. Man, I don't care what you think you see. This business isn't making X amount of money right now, and they are not going to hear you. But if you have a relationship, that'll be able to know that if you've given those value adds, those plus ones before, and you have to throttle back on something, they're going to know. So it gives you that instant credibility when things aren't going the way. Hey, I'm working on this. I want to get this going back. I know it's hard. It's hard for you, which also causes a ripple hard for me. And this is why we can't do X, Y, and Z. So,
coming up with these USPs or these plus ones, okay, like with buyers and sellers, okay, I mean, that's, when I say easy, we have a lot more conversations with them. We're hearing what their objections are, what is prohibiting them from moving forward. We can go out there and then identify those pain points, solve those pain points, and tie those in as USPs, but then like when you were starting this business, the franchising business, this was something new to you that maybe you didn't necessarily know what those pain points and those resistance points were going to be, from franchisees as you were, first starting this out. How did you articulate those when you were first? And I know they're evolving right now, like you talked about, bringing in, monthly coach and so forth. But, out of the gate, and the reason I'm asking this question, if anybody, like, I don't know, like maybe somebody is trying to go out there and figure out a USP for a channel account that they've never done business with. And it's difficult, like with REO, it's kind of hard for me to know maybe what these asset managers' pain points are until I'm in that business and have conversations with them. So how did you kind of do your research and construct those USPs in the beginning?
So you talking about ones like from a brokerage to an agent level, or from
No,
an agent to a
I'm
buyer
talking
seller?
about like with your franchisees. So like, okay, hey, I'm gonna go out there now as a franchise, or I'm gonna start selling these franchisees. Well, how do I differentiate myself as a franchisee versus a REMAX versus there's all these other ones out there, right?
Yeah, and so ultimately the first thing I did in a value add was that I said, well, they're a big ship. They can't move as nimble and as quick as we can. So we're skinny. And so you, instead of spending money on things that don't matter, you will be able to keep more money. So whether that's building out an office or office furniture, all the prerequisites that they had as a need, we use as a unique value proposition for us, because not needing it means you get to keep it. So you can start skinnier, you can get to the profit faster, and there was less barrier of entry. So lowering the barrier of entry, but allowing them to scale and get to, I mean, there are places that their offices are bigger than their local REMAX office. And they started with us, and you're like, man, if they had started with the REMAX, I wonder if they would have gotten there, because they would have had to spend so much money on this, that, and the other. So that becomes a unique value, because not having to spend money on things that don't matter anymore to people that are just stuck in the old way or the old way of business was a huge value. Me coaching, if they went over to REMAX, they weren't getting Dave Liniger or whoever the CEO of that company is. They weren't getting that person. And so, I mean, ultimately, I'm no Dave Liniger, or that guy's probably already forgot more than I'll ever know. But the point of it is, it's who you have access to was a huge value, because when you're starting skinny, when you're starting small, you have access of time, so you can give a lot of that value. And so really unique value propositions is, there's a book called, I think it's Pink Goldfish. Have you ever read that?
No.
Where it's essentially taking your weakness and turning it into a strength, right? And now the problem with that is it's going to change over time. So one of them was, we did an outing, we did a team thing. We were just a team. There's like 8 of us or whatever, and we went and did a little team outing where everyone went to, and we got pedicures, and I paid for everybody to get pedicures, and we had champagne, and everybody's just hanging out, and everybody's kind of in chairs. Well, when we got to 50 people, that wasn't an option anymore, right? So we couldn't do that. So that value proposition of culture changed to, it had to become something else. And at some point we scaled and went somewhere else. I used to do parties at my house. Well, I can't have everyone across the country come to a party at my house. But that was our value proposition then. That was valuable to them. I mean, we spent a lot of money on it. We do Christmas parties where it was an open bar with orange crushes. I think when you were in town, we went up there, that place that has orange crush. We would rent out that whole thing, and it was an open bar and everyone could come. And so we knew we spent $12 grand a year on that. And so it didn't generate business, it didn't do it. But what would happen is it worked in their endorphins to get everything going, where they were happy where they were at. They were engaged, they were connected with each other. And that huge value was a great return for us, because we felt like we were contributing to them. Somebody else may have said, you could spend that 12 grand on leads or whatever it was. Not that we didn't do both, but the point was that was a unique selling proposition. So we'd have posters of that event that were up there. There'd be videos. We would market that was what was going on, because that was a unique selling proposition, even though it had nothing to do with writing a contract, getting a lead, and doing the sales. It differentiated us significantly, because the other companies were all about profit. They're old school. They turned real corporately, and they couldn't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So then, kind of walk us through, for anybody that's maybe watching and listening that is thinking about going the brokerage route. Because if anybody that's watching or listening that is thinking of going that path, I highly recommend to look into what Ryan has at First Class. Go out there and explore it, see if it's a fit for you, whether you want to go the independent route or if you want to go this path. It's it's an amazing, excellent model, and it's very unique, right? I mean, I love the fact that, I had a friend, this was about a year ago, that reached out to me. And I'm not going to name the name of the franchise that he was looking into, but he came to me and he was like, dude, it's going to cost me about $300,000 just to open the doors in this franchise. After franchise fees, the mandated TIs that they had to do with the office, all of this. And, my advice to him was like, dude, I would to 300 grand before you have a penny coming in the door that you have to invest, like that, just not in this space. And you're the first model that I've seen that, hey man, what, for $500, like you can start your own brokerage, you can become profitable day one out of the gate. You stacked on the ancillaries, and it's such a unique model where you put the pieces together, where with all the profit centers, and I'm going to let you explain it, but I mean, it's an amazing model, dude. I just want to make sure that everybody, understands what it is. Can you kind of walk us through?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately they can finance the franchise fee. Most people are paying for coaches or whatever. I think I'm worth that amount of pay, I guess, over a 5-year period. They have that 5-year period for that. What we charge in the tech fee, they can't get it any skinnier anywhere else. So they were going to do it. If you go get like KV Core, $750 for 5 licenses. for us, if you're paying $50 tech user cost and you get all of the systems, we actually even have a new value add that we added to get even skinnier. We got a $25 tech package. So that way, in case they wanted to put somebody on something smaller, we got places where they can go in and plug in. Now they can have perfect storm for their office and now just pay for the other systems that we need for the upgrades. And then so it's $25, then they can have whatever the other system they want. So we just got it skinnier. And then the tech fee, the royalty for the 150, usually it's passed through on, you know, to some other play, but the ultimate part of it is I buy a rental property and I can sell that property and collect money back in, right? Or I can refinance it and have the tenant pay off the money I pulled out of it. And now someone's going, where is he going with this? What does this have anything to do with it? A business that you're working in every day, it becomes like a job. But in this business model, you can set it up where now you can scale and grow and have other agents essentially making more money than they're making somewhere else. And you're now paying off your business. So you run to a positive where you're running your business now, you have a cost to your brokerage. When you're running it this way, the revenue coming in is greater than the expenses to operate quickly. And that's what you were talking about being in the profit. Now, it doesn't mean they can't go hire admins, spend money on leads and spend more money than they're bringing in, which we wouldn't recommend. But having that setup is huge, that they can quickly get it to where it's valuable to the other person. We know that it's essentially a loss leader. Everything we set up to get to these 100 franchises, to get in these agents, it's all a loss leader. We're building a network, the network of that synergy of agents passing referrals back and forth to each other, for them to refer agents to other offices, for franchisees to support each other and do things like that, for agents to get together, and franchisees getting together, all the things they do there, and even what's coming down the pipe. I mean, you want to talk about where things are going? Agents are going to get licensed as loan officers. It's coming and it's fast and furious, and nobody's even talking about it because they don't want their loan officers to get upset that agents are going to be able to make basis points on both. And so I don't know how it is in Arizona. It's different in every state, but I think Arizona has some challenges with it. But that's coming in. That's coming in. The ancillaries of title, the ancillaries of mortgage, it's all going to go right in there. And there's an ability to now scale and roll that stuff out that is now going to be huge. And it's a matter of getting in front of it. Somebody watch this podcast, they're going to have a chance to get ahead of it. If not, we're already talking about it. We're already positioning and working on that and getting all of those things in line so that people will be able to do it. If it costs somebody $900 to get a mortgage license and they make $2,000 back on the mortgage deal on doing the same transaction with the processor on the back, you think that dog's not going to hunt? I mean, that it's going to be huge. I mean, it's going to be a big shift that's going to go on, but we want to be out in front of that. We want to set it up, get it skinny, put it internal, make sure the franchisees are involved and included in that, follow all the rules to doing all of this stuff the right way, and then rolling it out. And it changes everything. Whereas the other people are going to still try and force down the other way, and they don't want anybody to know about it. And it's a part of our culture. It's a part of what we're doing. Is we're not hiding any of it. All of that's out there. We want to just disrupt, just go in there, grow savagely, let people that are underneath somebody else now become a place of running their own business and have all these other opportunities as well. And then the culture, they should be making the way for the next people that are coming in. When somebody comes into your office, there should be a clear path of how they can grow to whatever level it is they want, not a restrictive stay in this model forever, right? And so good leaders are looking for that, and we're looking for those good leaders.
Yeah. And what's amazing about, because of the fact that you're, at least to my knowledge, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but are the only virtual franchise, like meaning that you allow your franchisees to be virtual, or they can have bricks and mortar if they want, but you leave that up to them. And so that keeps it skinny. Like you mentioned, okay, hey, you can get, $500 a month where you can finance a franchise fee. And with all then on the back end, you guys providing the ancillaries as for like transaction management, bookkeeping, providing all the systems, like a good buddy of mine, Jeremy Huber. I mean, he started off, bought a franchise, single agent, now I would have told him, hey dude, like you're a single agent, like, build a team first. Now I wasn't aware of, the model at that time that he was, I was thinking he was going more of a traditional route, but it allowed a dude like that to go out there and now, be able to jump in for, again, like very little out of the gate, but then leverage everything in place And what, I mean, he grew a 40 agent brokerage in like 12 months, just continues to explode. It's like, I don't see other opportunities that exist out there. I think why so many people don't get into the brokerage game where they can go out there and then build a great sellable product and have an exit strategy is because the barrier costs are just so insanely high, through these traditional, franchises out there that just makes it an impossibility for most.
Yeah. I mean, scaling it and building something quick that it takes you out of production and out of that race is key. And even still, we still have more value after that. Jeremy opened up, I think, 2 more offices. And so that gives him the ability to now put somebody in and lead and run as a management side that has an employment, especially as we go through, this kind of tumultuous market stuff that's going on. It gives somebody an opportunity that says, hey, I don't want to be in sales. I want to lead and I can train, and they have a new value. It allows him to then add in new people and new markets and things like that. And at the same time, we have other offices that they're opening one franchise, but because of the way our integration of technology is, they can run across the state just like that. They have the MLS and now they're running statewide. They can hire agents anywhere. And on top of that, then they can run into other states if they want. And so there may be other virtual. We went ahead and we trademarked the first virtual real estate franchise. So that is trademarked at this point. So, there may be other ones that are out there now, but I do believe any that would be came after us. And there's companies, I was looking at one last night. There's companies that were ahead of us in starting a similar models. I think people saw this is where the market and industry is going. Do I really want to put money into setting up this kind of model? If I could do it over again, I'd probably just buy an area rep. I wouldn't start a franchise. But there are people that started before that are way smaller, and they're running more corporate stores than franchise stores. And so, all of that's telling of what's going on.
Yeah. No, I'm excited for you guys. I mean, I think you guys are going to take over the industry, dude. In that space, man. The growth is just insane. The amount of growth that you continue to go out there and experience, dude. So for anybody that's watching, I got a couple other questions for you, but just as we're kind of getting off this topic here, for anybody that is watching or listening though, and they want to learn more, maybe have a conversation about you, a deeper conversation about maybe starting a franchise with you, like where's the best place, dude, to reach out to you, to get in touch with you, to be able to learn more?
They can go to our page that we talked about, the First Class Real Estate page, and they can do sign up for Discovery Day. So there's a Discovery Day usually once or twice a month where we just kind of unfold it all, talk to another franchisee and stuff like that. So you can go through that. You don't have to do that. Once you reach out for that, someone's going to reach out and communicate with you that way, just to kind of share what it is. And all of it's full disclosure. There's a franchise disclosure you're going to get. It's going to give you all the lowdown, and then you can have that information. They'll also be able to find that on that link with the free gift. It's from the website, which means on the top you have the menu. They can go navigate through any of there and find out anything they want. So we're open book. We'll share any of the stuff. Somebody asked me the other day. They said, "Hey, we want to ask you about X, Y, and Z. Do we need to sign an NDA?" And we're like, "No, we'll tell you what it is. I mean, if you want to go do the work that it takes to do it, go ahead. I mean, you're going to just throttle back and realize that it's easier to do an area rep than it is to try and go redo this stuff, because the industry's changed. So what we have that really, I didn't even realize this was just such a value is, inside sale or Brokerment sold to
Boomtown sold
Boomtown.
Yeah.
And they sold inside sales. We're like one of the only companies that uses Brokerment and KV Core. So we're integrated into the same system on grandfathered contracts. So like I knew Andrew when he opened Brokerment, we were one of the first few people to do it. So we have a deal that you can't go get somewhere else. Even if you were going to start from scratch, you couldn't go get it. So everything is that low. That's the only way we're even able to survive, is to be able to drive down the cost. And that's how we keep driving down the cost. Like it's a race to the bottom. Inflation, they're talking about price going up. We're not changing prices. We're only going down. It will only be going down. We want to be more inclusive, not less inclusive. We want to make more of an opportunity. We want more winners. We want more people that are bringing new ideas and new things that are going to be there. They're going to have new challenges that we're going to help navigate, which is our job. This is what we do. This is what we have all these support people here for. And just, it's exciting to see where it's going to go and what's going to happen. I feel like we're going to be a different company 90 days from now, and then 90 days after that, because the people that come in want certain things. And I waste a lot of time. Did you know that? I waste a lot of time coming up with new ideas and new things. I'll set up something and then go, I don't know, that's not there, because I can afford to go that long without a paycheck, but I can't afford to be behind. So I've got to waste time figuring out things and coming up with it and getting out in front of it and leading people through whatever those things are that are going to be best for them, and coming up with that content and that value for them. And so I spend a lot of time doing that and throwing ideas away. I don't like it anymore. Never mind, that's not going to work. After you map, because I spend time really going through it. Me and you have talked about a couple of those ideas, before. And so, that's what I do. I collaborate. What do you think about this? And then what do you think about that? It's a huge value for someone to be able to tap into this and go, I didn't just come up with this. I went through 10 other people, and you would say, it's a bad idea. And I forget Josh. I'm going to go this other way. And then 6 months later, I go, should have just listened to Josh 6 months ago. So, you get that value, because then they only get the ideas that made it through the test of process and new things that are coming along. So it probably doesn't make sense to anybody, but you understand what I mean.
Yeah. So speaking of that, man, of the future, like what do you, what's your longer term vision? What where do you ultimately want to take this thing?
My goal and my target, our next target is 300 franchises, and then our target from there is 1,000 franchises. I'm in a conundrum right now, right? And I have it set up where we have our model and it goes and it grows, and everyone can kind of navigate how they want. You want to run a partner model, you want to run 100%, they can kind of do it however they want. We're just giving them a platform to be able to run off of. And I see that as a huge value, that we just essentially become a tech company that provides a platform. But there's a trade-off in that. And the trade-off is, how do we become a franchise company that can turn around and give value back to either agents or franchisees? And the thing with it is it's got to make enough sense that people would want to invest in it, right? And so like I told you, I was on the call earlier, they're calling us all the time now about investing in this thing. There's private equity companies, there's VCs, they want to go in and invest, but I'm not ready for that yet, because I need more buy-in. I want it where our agents are using the mortgage company, because the money goes back to the holding company that they get a share in. So they're now using 3 companies to drive back a value of a share. They looked at it as a real estate value, but now they can turn around and get back to the shares of giving that back, so they can win twice, if we can even go that route. But I need that buy-in for them to do it, and it takes a trust factor. And I didn't realize this before. It's like, you either got to take outside money and risk their money, or you got to risk people's time to generate money to give them back the value. So you really need a lot of trust in what's going on. So we set up that structure for that, because I think that part's not going to go away, that value is going to have to end up being there, and it's got to be worth it for an investor to want to go in and do it. So there's got to be enough money and revenue for them to see a return, and for them to see enough adoption rate. So anyway, that's what I think. I don't know how well it's going to go, but ultimately everyone's in the ability that's in our organization now to drive their own future by whatever they decide, whatever they do, because I'm open. I'm not in this for making money. I'm in this for disrupting, doing something cool, and bringing all of them along. Like, man, you went into this, there's a huge thing about loyalty, because if they're in here when they didn't know what was coming or what was possible, and they did it anyway, that means a lot. I know you've got to see that in in what you do as well. I mean, when you're finding that they're loyal, and then they get a reward for being loyal, that you couldn't promise originally, because you didn't even know that was going to be an option. So anyway, that's where I'm at with it right now. So that's my hope. I don't know whether it's going to be a year, 6 months, or whatever.
Yeah. So then, so last question for you, dude. And I know that this is a tough one, and none of us have a crystal ball. But it's the number one question that I get on a daily basis. Is and you're somebody that's been in this game. I think we've been in the game about the same amount of time, both in 2005. With everything that's going on right now with the markets, with the economy. I mean, what is, whether it be, well, let me make it a 2-part question. What are your thoughts on where this market is going? And then secondary, what are things that people can do proactively right now to position themselves to not just survive whatever shifts are coming, but to go out there and thrive and crush it?
I can answer kind of twofold to what I think based on what I know. I mean, like there's certain things we do know. Interest rates supposedly are going to flatten out. I mean, they are where they are right now. The thing with it is all the money that's traded around has a tax value. So which means you have to find things that are going to be depreciating. So we've seen this from history. History repeats itself in a certain value. If inflation slows, the stock market goes up. But they're printing more money. And by printing more money, we know that, right? We already know they did 300 billion because of the bank thing that's going on. Well, so it's changing continually. So it's not a crystal ball. It's taking what's in front of you today, and what's in front of you today always has a ripple effect of what's going on next. And so printing that money is now going to inflate things more, which drives it more. And if they keep the interest rates here and then inflation goes on because of money coming in the market, it just disseminates all the way through. Well, anybody with money is going to buy real estate, and there's no inventory, which changes what's going on. So now no inventory, needing the tax savings and an inflating type market. I mean, I'm going to guess, but I think real estate is going to go up. So I'm buying another building. I got another building I'm buying right now. I'm buying flips on things and rental properties. I mean, we're doubling down on offices and growth because we want to own as many agents and transactional things to keep more of the mortgage, to keep more of the title as we can, as things dwindle in other areas and as other people fade out. We have to know that winter is coming, which was our mantra last year, to why we're growing. That's why we're up now, because we pushed on growing, knowing we had to outgrow the competition. So when they're dwindling away, offices are going to shut down. Well, that's going to free up business. You won't need as much business with not as much competition. So they'll either fold in and you're going to start to see a bunch of companies merging. That's what's going to go on. I don't know if that's going on in your market, but I know that's what's going to happen. They're going to merge to consolidate costs, to put those things together. So all of that stuff is going to be a part of it. Getting on the list side is going to be huge, right? If you can get more listings, you're going to be able to own the market. So if you're running an office, you want to have as many agents as you can. If you're an agent, you want to own as many listings as you can. You can't just get paid on the sales side. You have to get paid on owning it. You have to tie up stuff. If you're spending every dollar that you're making, you're just wasting time until something goes down and hoping that you're going to end up making more. The chances are it's not going to go up as much. But so what you got to do is you got to invest. You're going to have to invest in things to hold value.
Yeah, awesome stuff, man. Powerful words, dude. And Ryan, as always, I truly appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to be here, man. This has been amazing, brother.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, 100%. Those watching and listening, again, if you just scroll below, we'll have those links. Again, we have a link down there where you can snag a free copy of Ryan's book, Explode. Again, I highly recommend it. It's a brilliant, amazing book. So go out there, snag that. Those are right below. Again, as always, we truly appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to be here. So, and all your support and being here, checking out the podcast. Keep crushing it, keep kicking ass, and we will see you next time. Peace.
Thanks, man.